Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I want to talk about a video that I saw, it was probably about a week ago or so. I know we're closing in on the end of the first week of the new year 2025. Prior to that, obviously we were in the Christmas season. So, it's always a time of people receiving presents and giving presents. And, commercially, people are very happy because they get new products or whatever, the joy of giving new products or whatever. Um, so there was a video that I came across. And once again, this it follows a pattern that I generally follow on the channel. As I say, there's so much material that comes out. It's almost impossible for one person to just cover everything, even in the particular genre that I choose to focus on. So these stories or events will go into my archive, and I don't. Who knows if I ever get to them. It'd be like I'll have material ready and I just don't get a chance to record it and edit the video. So they sit in the archive. So, but then what happens is that another situation will come up where it will kind of allow me to reach back to that material that I never posted before and talk a little bit about it. So that's the case today. Um, the name of today's video, TikToker Rebecca Dabella's joy of receiving a Black Barbie captures hearts. Reaction speaks to lack of Black representation in Brazil's doll market. Okay. So, what am I talking about today? It's a topic, again, it talks a lot about Black representation in Brazil or lack thereof. Things have improved in Brazil for a number of years now because, like I said, when I first started, getting into the situation of Black Brazilians, you didn't see very many Black Brazilians on TV. You didn't see them in advertising. There were so many areas of Brazilian life where Black people were just totally invisible. If you were to judge Brazil by its media, its political representation, its elites, you would think the country was, just we'll say like a European country set in the tropics because you didn't see Black people anywhere. The only time you would believe there were Black folks in Brazil is if you looked on the soccer field. You see a lot of Black players on soccer fields, right? But everywhere else, you generally just didn't see Black folks, right? That has changed, I'm going to say, really in the last decade with the push for Black representation. You're starting to see Black people pop up in a whole lot of areas where before you just didn't see them before. Okay. So, how do I want to approach this? Last year, was it? Yeah, last year, it was 2024, I believe, where I remember sometime, I don't remember exactly what month, but there was a time where there was this anticipation over this Barbie movie that was coming out. I'm sure you all remember. I mean, even if you're somebody who's not into Barbie, you'll remember that Barbie movie. It just seems like the advertisements for the Barbie movie they were everywhere. I didn't see the movie. I saw some of the reviews. I saw what a lot of people were reacting to when they were talking about, okay, what is the message from this Barbie movie? What are we supposed to take away from this? Obviously, being a Black male, Barbie it was never part of my life. I always, I knew cousins, girls in school who, everybody had a Barbie doll or whatever. But it wasn't ever part of my life because that's just, I don't know many Black males or just males in general who've grown up, playing with Barbie dolls. But regardless of that, you can't help but note how much propaganda, how much advertising went into this movie. And so I remember that online, Black Brazilian women were taking the Black Barbie, they were taking the Barbie movie, and they had this attitude that says, look, yes, we're going to have a Black Barbie because, the prototype of the Barbie is always going to be a white woman, generally with blonde hair. She's going to be, kind of a model, a fashionista type. And a lot of Black women, whether in the United States or Brazil, have always complained they never really felt representation by Barbie because of what she looked like. So what I noticed was that on Instagram, Black Brazilian women had just taken over. They were like, okay, we're gonna push, there's gonna be a Black Barbie. There's gonna be a Black Barbie in the way that we represent ourselves. We identify with Barbie too, but we don't necessarily identify because she is a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. So we're going to make the Black Barbie, what they call the Barbie Negra. Now, of course, for many years in the United States, we all remember the story about the infamous doll test. So some of those same reactions and results will come out in Brazil because Black Brazilians are indoctrinated from the time they're little kids that they should have a desire for whiteness. You should desire to have whiter kids. You should try to make yourself white, if not in your appearance, in your mannerisms, in your gestures, in your attitude towards life. So in the last few decades, Black Brazilians have been really pushing back in terms of identity politics. So what I noticed were a lot of Black women doing their own versions of Barbie on Instagram mostly. I mean, I saw some videos on YouTube, but for the most part, a lot of Black Brazilian women were dressing up like Barbie. They were presenting this fantasy of, yes, Barbie can be Black too. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, because the young lady in the video, she got a Black Barbie doll from her boyfriend or her fiance. And people were just ecstatic about that video. Everybody was talking about how, oh, that's great. That guy really cares a lot about you. People were commenting on like, wow, the Barbie doll, you actually look a little bit like the Barbie doll. Some people were saying how it brought tears to their eyes. There's some people who were saying like, look, I've always wanted to have a Barbie doll myself, a Black Barbie. This is wonderful. Just such a small gesture, how big of a deal people made about this on the internet. So that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about this today. This video is, like I said, I saw it about a week ago. I'm just now getting a chance to really get to it. So let's talk a little bit about this. Before you do, and before I get into it, definitely like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, consider clicking on the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. So let's get into the video for today. Okay, so the TikToker, Rebecca Dabella, you see the joy of her receiving a Black Barbie. Her video captured hearts, but the reaction speaks to the lack of black representation in Brazil's doll market, which I'm going to talk about as we go on through this video. So a video posted on the TikTok profile of Rebecca Dabella recently captured the hearts of thousands of Brazilians. It showed the reaction of the young woman opening a package that had a Black Barbie doll in it that her fiance gave her for Christmas. The gesture may seem small, but in a Brazil in which Black people still have minor representation in the media and where Black dolls are still rare, it was a big deal. The symbol also represents a rising connection with Black identity and the demand of Black Brazilians for more representation in all genres of Brazilian life. Okay, so take a look at the video. It's obviously it's just a woman who's happy with something that she received for Christmas. Obviously, I don't know who she is, but I'm saying from her reaction, it appears that maybe she grew up, she never had a Black Barbie. I know there's a lot of Black women, particularly in Brazil, who speak about that. I've seen American women talk about they generally got white, blonde, blue-eyed Barbies as well. When Black Barbies in the United States came to be a little bit more accessible, you started seeing more Black women giving Black dolls, Black Barbies to their children. So this woman is, obviously she's happy, So if she's happy with this Barbie doll, just imagine there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of little Black girls in Brazil who would like to have a Black Barbie as well. They're a little bit more accessible now, as far as I know. But I'm going to get into a study. It was just showing that, I think that report, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, just showed the small representation of Black dolls in Brazil's doll market. So that's why I wanted to highlight this video. It might seem like something frivolous, but we all know the connection of being able to look at something and see yourself and see visibility, see a person like you represented there, right? So let's get into this. These are a couple of pictures that I found online. These are both Black Brazilian girls. These are pictures taken in Brazil. This one is from 1963 and this one's from 1970. This picture has taken on some it's generated some controversy because the picture here was taken from a book by a popular white anthropologist in Brazil, and she used this picture for the cover of her book. The book was called Nem Preto Nem Branco, Muito pelo contrário, cor e raça na sociabilidade brasileira, which means neither Black nor white, but much to the contrary, color and race in Brazilian sociability. So Lilia Schwartz, who's a top anthropologist, I believe she's still at the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil's top university. That's this picture here. The controversy came about because the girl who's featured in this picture today, she's about, I want to say 65, 64, 65 now. And she's saying that the author didn't get authorization for her to use a picture of herself as a 4-year-old girl on that cover. It actually went to court. The judge sided with the author and the publishing company saying, look, she didn't violate you because most likely nobody's going to be able to look at the cover and see this girl and recognize who you are, because today you're a 65-year-old woman. Nobody's going to recognize you from this child. It was kind of a crazy controversy. Maybe I'll do a story about that, but I have that book in my personal collection as well. And this book, like I said, this picture was taken by the photographer's name is Ken Heyman. And I believe this picture was taken in Rio de Janeiro in the 1970s, but it's definitely a picture from Brazil. So it's something common that you'll see. Black child, white doll. You didn't have black dolls necessarily back then. And if they did, imagine in Brazil, they were extremely rare. A lot of people in Brazil who were around in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they would talk about how if they wanted certain products, if it wasn't in Brazil, people who would travel to Brazil or travel to the United States, they would come back with something that people asked for. I've heard people talk about how they would have friends go overseas, go to the United States, and come back with copies of Ebony magazine, because at the time, Brazil didn't have magazines just for its black population. That would come decades later. Ebony and Jet has been part of Black American culture for years. Today, you have Raça Brazil magazine, Brazil's only, we could say, successful, long-lasting magazine targeted at the Afro-Brazilian population. It's been out for about 28, almost 29 years now. But you just didn't get a lot of black representation back in those days. It's still, black representation in Brazil is still it leaves much to the imagination, but it's much better than it was just say 20, 25 years ago. Okay. So against that context, you got a lot of people on YouTube and on just Google in general. They're asking, onde estão as Barbies negras? Meaning, where are the black Barbies? They're talking about conhece o teste de boneca. They're talking about, check out the doll test. They know about it as well. Again, another one here, onde estão as bonecas negras? Where are the black dolls? Again here, where are the black dolls? Research shows that production of black dolls in the country fell between the years 2016 and 2020. That's kind of intriguing because there was already a very small amount, very little availability of black dolls on Brazil's black market. Consumer market, particularly online. I think there was a report that said like black dolls on Brazil's doll market online, it was only like 7% of all the dolls being manufactured or imported in Brazil were black. So this is what you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of women asking this question: where are the black dolls? Where are the black Barbies? Okay. The young lady that I'm going to be talking about in the video today, this young lady right here, she's the one she did a study about black dolls in the Brazilian market, and she has a YouTube channel, and she has a pretty extensive collection of black Barbie dolls. I want to talk a little bit about her. Let's see here. So these are just a couple of thumbnails of a couple of her videos. I want to get into this in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about this, what I'm going to go over in this video. So, these are some of the bullet points that I want to talk about today. Like I said, several months ago, around the time that Barbie movie was being released, you saw a lot of black Brazilian women doing their own thing on Instagram, just promoting the Barbie look. Like, yeah, a Barbie can be black. These are profiles from a couple of the women that I saw. This is Gabriele Hamida. She's dressed in her, obviously she's dressed in pink. This is another girl just showing off their Barbie look, their interpretation of the Barbie look. I found it intriguing because I saw on here was from Nina Silva. Now, Nina Silva is I think there's two people behind what's called the Movimento Black Money, the Black Money movement in Brazil. She's one of the most influential black women in Brazil. She's promoting the idea that black people need to start, supporting black businesses. This is the way we're going to support ourselves and build community, by supporting each other. She did her own thing on Barbie. She released a video of her like dressed up in like her Barbie gear. Then there was another channel. Let's see if I can find that real quick. This is from the Raça Brazil website. I mentioned this earlier, for Black magazine in Brazil, and on their website they show a number of black women here dressed up in pink, or I don't know if they're hot pink or fuchsia, and they're all dressed up in their Barbie gear or what they would associate what Barbie would wear. So, the release of the Barbie movie was highly anticipated in Brazil as well, as you can see from these pictures. Then this is Mari Moraes, and she says Black Barbie herself. So you can see the looks that she's putting on here. Just obviously she was anticipating the Black Barbie, the movie as well. But again, just putting out the idea like, look, Black girls, they like certain facets of Barbie as well. They just want to see more representation of what a Barbie can look like, right? So again, this is Mari Moraes. This is another Instagram photo from Gabriele Hamida. So right now, who has the YouTube channel, what does the Baiana have? O que é que a Baiana tem? That's a famous song, I think from the 1940s, maybe. Famous composer in Brazil named Dorival had actually released a Black Barbie doll dressed up like a Baiana. The Baiana is, if anybody's been to Salvador, Bahia, you'll see women dressed up in these types of outfits. They'll be selling, Afro-Brazilian cuisine in the streets. And this is what a traditional Baiana is generally looks like. These are what the clothes are. When you go downtown to like the Pelourinho area in Salvador, you see a lot of women dressed like this. So Mattel actually released a Baiana Barbie that looks like, the traditional Baiana in the state of Bahia. Okay. So again, this is the young lady who has a big Barbie collection. And she's talking about her experiences as a collector and telling a little bit of history of like Black Barbie and Barbie in general. The question is there Black Barbie? A collector tells the story behind the doll and the story behind the Black Barbie, the creation of the Black Barbie. Today's article is by Laís Seguin. So this is Rafaele Breves, 33. She might be 34 now. She's a collector of Black Barbie dolls. Since she was a child, Mattel's toy was her favorite, but it was always strange that none of the editions that she had at the time, whether at home or in stores, looked like her. My relationship with the doll is one of admiration, but since she didn't look like me, I imagined a world for her, but I didn't see myself in it. This brought me self-esteem problems with my hair and my skin color because my ideal of beauty was Barbie, she says. All of Rafaele's Barbies were white, blonde, with straight hair and blue eyes. Very different from her, who was black with curly hair and dark eyes. This only changed when the child who lived in the city of Tatuí in the countryside of Sao Paulo state was already an adult of 27 years in 2017. It was on the 27th of February, my birthday. I was in a mall and happened to walk into a toy store and saw what would become my first Black Barbie. She had dark skin and hair like mine, but did it make sense to buy it? She recalls. After all, even though she liked the doll and found it beautiful, Rafaele wasn't going to play with it and put it back on the shelf. Days passed before she entered another store and the same edition of the Black Barbie was being sold for half the price. I had already seen a doll like that, but I had given up on taking it. It turns out that in the same store, I found another Black Barbie with lighter skin and kinky curly hair. It was like they were there waiting for me. So I ended up taking both of them, she says. These are, she's saying the first Barbies with representative hair from the 1960s appeared only in 2017 in the Fashionista line. Having acquired two Black Barbies on the same day opened a universe of possibilities for Rafaele. How many other similar dolls were there and I didn't know them? She started researching and realized that she needed to pass on this information. I discovered Black Barbies through Facebook groups with adult Barbie collectors and not by Google searches. They already existed when I was a child, but structural racism hid them and they were not marketed in Brazil, she says. Intriguing. Weren't marketed in Brazil. A journalist and public manager specializing in culture, education, and ethnic racial relations at the University of Sao Paulo, Rafaele Breves has become one of Brazil's leading spokespersons on diversity in toys with almost 15,000 followers on social networks. In the profile, Minhas Bonecas Negras, meaning My Black Dolls, she dedicates herself to telling the story of these dolls, which has been silenced for decades. Rafaele explains that those first two Barbies she bought in 2017 were part of a 2016 line from Mattel, a company founded in 1945. Okay, this is another thing I want to point out, that as more Black Brazilians have had access to the university, they're telling these stories. This woman happened to focus her research on the creation and rise of Black dolls, what they meant to her, what they mean to a lot of Black children. So just think, if there weren't more Black Brazilians being able to go into the university and make these type of studies, and we wouldn't even know about this type of thing. But more increasingly, because of the quota system over the last 2 decades, more Black Brazilians have had access to the university, which leads to studies like this. That is, It took 72 years for the manufacturer to make a line with six black dials that had different skin tones. Diversity was intended to increase sales because at the time, the company's profit had fallen by 60%. I find that intriguing too because Black Brazilians have been protesting against Brazil's major television networks for a while because of the lack of Black representation. And so, with this rise of Black protagonists in Brazilian films and television series and novellas, and advertising, I came to discover that Brazil's top television network had a deal with the United Nations to increase Black representation on the small screen. Because basically they're saying, and some, a well-known anthropologist talked about this, like they're only doing this because they want to keep the dollar. They want to, or what they call in the Brazilian currency is called the real. They want to keep the money coming in. If we have to open a door to more Black representation, we'll do that to keep our market share. So, on the one hand, Global has always been depicted as a racist network, as have been the other top Brazilian television networks. But people look at this as a victory when really what it is, it's the networks care about their profit margin. If a large percentage of the Brazilian population is moving away from television because of a lack of representation of a major parcel of the population, then we'll put more Black people on TV, whatever it takes to keep that money coming in. Continuing, my collection is my desire for representation to the world. I know that it is much larger than my shelves, and my wish is to enlarge them even more so that other people can see them. Here are a few editions of the Barbies that she has in her collection. The first Black Barbie from 1979. It was created by designer Kitty Black Perkins, a Black woman from the state of South Carolina. Despite the skin tone being brown, the doll had features of a white one, such as a thin nose and lips. It was a turbulent period in the United States with the Black Civil Rights Movement and a call for the toy factory to bring dolls that looked more like a part of its people. The inspiration for the model was Diana Ross and the Supremes. In the toy box, there is a message. She's Black, she's beautiful, she's dynamite. The first Black Barbie to join the Dolls of the World line, originally created in 1980 to represent the culture of different countries, was from Nigeria a decade later. Although her hair is black and more voluminous, her face continues with the same standard as a white version with the same features. Basically, they're saying they put a darker color on it, but the facial features still look like a white girl. Next came from Jamaica of 1991, which has the same face as the previous one. Kenya from 1994, the first to have African traits. Ghana, 1996, South Africa, 2002, and Brazil, 2012. The Black Power movement of the 1960s turned the voluminous hair of the Black population into a rounded shape, like the afro, what they call cabello black, or so cabello black, it comes out of what they call cabello Black Power in English, because when they see afros in Brazil, they associate it with the Black Power movement. When Black Americans were wearing afros, so they call it cabello Black Power, and they just shorten it to cabello black, which means afro. Let me see here. But at Mattel, the rounded shape and the big afro that people were wearing in the 60s and the early 70s became a symbol of struggle, representation, and appreciation of culture. But at Mattel, the first Barbies with hair representative of this historical moment appeared only in 2017 in the Fashionista line, aimed at children, the dolls with braids. In addition to these, there is the first Black wheelchair doll, the first Fashionista in 2018, Black Barbie with a mechanical prosthesis and Fashionista in 2019, and Black Barbie with vitiligo in 2020. As we can see, the girl, the collector, she also has a Barbie doll, a Black doll with vitiligo represented in this picture. So again, I've talked about various, Black women in Brazil putting their own spin on Barbie. Like, yes, there's going to be a Black Barbie. There's nothing wrong with having a Black Barbie. They represent us. You have various profiles. I mean, this is just a few. There were literally hundreds of these profiles coming up with Black Brazilian women doing their own thing on the Barbie thing, right? Of course, the Barbie movie from 2024, but then also the research. And this is what I was saying, why this is an important issue. This was from 2019. All of these stories you can find on blackbraziltoday.com, almost 4,000 articles there. First Black doll store in Brazil to open in Rio. In a market where Black dolls only make up 7% of the total, the founder estimates she will sell 10,000 per month. When people see representation, they go out and buy it. Classic children's characters earn another meaning. Everyday situations and acts of racial prejudice lead psychology students to create a line of Black dolls. Okay. This is actress Chris Viana. You know, she's, I would say, like a B-list actress. You know, a lot of people know her by face. A lot of people know her by name, particularly Black women. Actress Chris Viana and the importance of having Black dolls. Even with them being rare in Brazil, she has a collection of about 60 to 70 Black dolls. This story is from 2017. Who's to say in the last 7 years, she's probably have over 100 Black dolls by now. This was a video by popular Bahian singer, the Baiana, Bonecas Pretas, which means Black Doll. It was a video by Bahian singer Larissa Luz, which gives voice to the rising demand for Black representation in the toy market. This was a big deal. So this was like almost 8 years ago when this video was released. And the song, like, where are our Black dolls? We need to see representations of ourselves. I love the Black doll auntie. Toy company and store collaborated and released a new collection of Black dolls, and on and on. So there are plenty of this was a lady, this scientist who in Brazil, she was one of the first to start breaking down the coronavirus in Brazil. This was from August of 2021. They actually put together, they made a Barbie doll in her likeness. Jacqueline Goyes Jesus, a biomedical researcher, with a Barbie doll in her likeness. The Brazilian helped to sequence the coronavirus DNA. Okay. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. You know, some people might look at this like, you know, what's the big deal? Why are you talking about Black dolls? Well, it is important. You know, when you are in environments, you're in places, you're in schools, you're in neighborhoods where you don't see other people that look like you tend to feel like you're out of place. So I think a lot of people can identify with the necessity of Black representation. And there's a lot of Black women who want to see their children be able to play with Black dolls. I mean, what's wrong with having a doll that looks somewhat like you? I mean, if there's none, people they will play with the doll that's available. But I think it connects a lot more when, you know, something that you like looks like you. I can remember, you know, as a child myself, you know, I watched TV like any other kid, and I watched all the shows. You know, and I didn't have a problem watching white shows where there were no Black characters. There were plenty of them in the 1970s and 80s. But I especially connected with those shows that had people who look like me. I'm talking about shows like Different Strokes. There was a basketball program in that time. It was called The White Shadow. And I'm just like, damn, there's a bunch of dudes on this show that look like people I grew up with, people in my school, people in my neighborhood. So it's not that I rejected the shows with the white kids and the white characters. It's like that's all we had. But I felt a stronger connection when I looked on TV and saw people who look like me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, what did you think about today's video? Definitely drop a comment in the comment section. I want to hear what you have to say. Are there any Black women out there who can identify with how this woman was feeling when she received a Black Barbie, even being an adult? You know, how did you feel when you saw your daughter open up a package with a Black Barbie in it? I would love to hear some of these stories. Love some of the comments that come in here, whether I agree with them or I disagree with them. You know, I don't delete anybody's comments. If you think your comment disappeared, it wasn't me. I have never deleted any comments off of YouTube. So anyway, definitely like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel if you've seen more than a few videos that you liked on my channel. No, click on that notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. I got more videos coming. With that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I'll post here at Black Brazil Today.